you've probably heard of body language profiling and might have thought that this has got to be the key to behavior profiling. Or maybe you've even gone one layer deeper and learned NCI University's 6MX system from Chase Hughes' book 6MX and thought, dang, this is the real McCoy. This is the greatest, most in-depth that I could see a person. And I used to think that body language and 6MX was the end of the story when it came to having behavior profiling skills that resemble something close to a superpower. The truth is, there is a deeper level, something way more powerful, and it's a set of psychological factors that make the rest of behavior profiling look like an old dented Toyota Corolla sitting next to a brand new Porsche 911. So the first thing we're going to start with is the authority triangle. And authority functions, I think, kind of like a signal. People's nervous system pick it up really fast. And even if you aren't trained what to look for, you will instantly know that something feels a little bit off. Now, this authority triangle, which is what we use at NCI University, which is developed by Chase Hughes, gives you three sides to track behavior through. And what is so incredible about this model, and really most of the models that Chase has made, is that it is modular. When we look at a whole bunch of other types of profiling tools, other things that you're going to see out there on the internet, I think one of the things that really separates the models that Chase makes, in addition to just their incredible level of accuracy, is that they allow you to combine different elements from different aspects of the same model, meaning that you can combine different variations and track behavior through the three sides, which essentially gives you 125 variations, and you've only got to memorize 15 things. Now, the external factors that we can view authority and confidence through, which is where we're going to start today because we're using it as a profiling tool, stands for MACCI. MACCI, and these are movement, appearance, comfort, connection, and intent. Now, let's look at a situation. Let's say we see someone who is kind of a little bit jittery, and their appearance seems fine. They seem well groomed. Even they're moving pretty slow and they look comfortable, but they're not truly connected to the conversation, and their intentions seem a little bit uncertain. So given this profile, let's track this behavior back through the authority triangle so you guys can see how this triangle can be used as a profiling tool. If the underlying habits on the bottom of the triangle, these stand for ETASF, which is environment, time, appearance, social, and financial. Now, with what you're seeing on the external side, there's a problem with intent a little bit, and there's a problem with connection. What could that relate to in terms of environment, time, appearance, social, or financial? Social is, I think, definitely the right answer here. And that's likely what we're going to see. If there's a problem with those two things, it's pretty obvious, right? There's very likely a problem going on with social. So now let's keep this going. So if we see that there's a problem with social on the underlying part of the authority triangle, how can we now track this to someone's internal side of their authority triangle? So the internal aspects or attributes are CDLGE, which is confidence, discipline, leadership, gratitude, and enjoyment. Now, if we were profiling this person in real life, we would want to be looking at as many data points as we could. We'd be looking at things like culture, context, any behavioral cues, or anything that we know or understand about this person. But given this context, if we're just in an isolated sense looking at these behaviors, and I'm seeing something low, so I'm seeing a low social score, what might that relate to? Confidence, discipline, leadership, gratitude, or enjoyment? Or is it a couple of factors? The precise two elements that I personally would tie it to are confidence and enjoyment. And the definition of confidence is defined by Chase and NCI University is a feeling of comfort and a generalized expectation of positive outcomes in the future. So now think about this. We saw something occurring, right? In terms of we saw there was a problem with connection and intent. And just by tracking it through this simple triangle, we have now deduced that there is very likely an issue with this person's level of enjoyment in their life, their ability to feel safe and generalized positive outcomes occurring in the future. And as well, we know they're very likely not involved in very many social activities and they have a low social score. So this is just one tiny lens, just one tool in our tool set. But this is something we can use really quickly to get a pretty deep snapshot into what's going on with the human being in front of us. Now, the next lens that I want to give you guys here is a golden rule of profiling, which Chase has this great saying, which is to see suffering first. What does that mean? So the ego forms as a reflection of fear, and personality often becomes a shield for that fear. So when you spot the private insecurity someone's ego protects, you can find the lever behind their identity. That's how you can see people in a way that most people could never even imagine. All we've really got to do here is be able to spot a mask and invert it. And once we do that, we can instantly see the tree of someone's ego, the root of which is their greatest fears. So let's go through a couple examples. Loud certainty often is going to guard insecurity. Or if we see chronic superiority, that's often guarding a fear of not being worthy or of not being enough. And perfection will often guard some kind of a judgment sensitivity. So constant helping often guards a hunger for acceptance. All we've got to do is just look at what is this person trying to show me with their social mask? What is their ego trying to present? And what's the opposite of that? And we can instantly draw a direct connection to the formation of their ego and their greatest fears. The third lens we're going to go through tonight is the childhood development triangle. And this kind of adds on to that rule we just talked about. So the childhood development triangle is how someone gained friendships when they were a kid, how they gained rewards, and how they gained safety. I see a lot of people that we train get really hung up on the age of, does this occur at the age of 5 or 6 or 10? What's the very particular age? What we're really looking for is in the psychological development of this person's brain, what were, generally speaking, the patterns that helped them to gain friendships? What were the behavioral patterns that helped them to gain friendships, generally speaking? Or what were the things they were rewarded for, and how did they gain safety as a child? So if we look at friends for a second, how did they get belonging? Was it humor, maybe usefulness? Could be dominance or agreeableness, or maybe just being the quiet observer. So if you're in a group, you can watch the role that they default to without being asked. Now let's look at rewards. If we see someone who is very achievement driven, this is often going to be a performance driven adult, right? So someone who is rewarded for achievements, we're going to see a lot of performance driven behaviors in adulthood. Someone who is rewarded for obedience, we will see authority seeking and rule attuned adults. Or what about if they were really rewarded for their appearance and the way that they looked? Pretty obvious, right? We're going to see an image attuned adult. And finally, safety. The safety patterns shape the deepest habit. And if safety comes from perfection, we're going to see rigid standards and a high neediness for control. Or if being invisible was the thing that kept them safe, we'll see avoidance, low expression. Now, let's sum up this whole little system that I gave you guys tonight in one breath. The authority triangle, all we need to do is start with what we're seeing on the external side of that triangle, and we can track it through the underlying and internal aspects of that authority triangle. Or if we want to see suffering first, we know that the ego protects pain. So all we need to do is find what the social mask is that's being presented to us, and then we can find the insecurity, and you find the behavioral identity key. And finally, the childhood development triangle is going to show us the friends, rewards, and safety, which predicts the adult strategies and reveals childhood survival patterns. I hope that you can take this and use this to stop being fooled by kind of surface performance of others, and use it to choose better leaders, better allies, and make better moves in your everyday life. And if you would like training and not just learning how this one profiling system works, I would love to meet you in person at the NCI2 Behavior Profiler event. It's going to be held in Amsterdam in the Netherlands on May 7th through 10th. And we will dive into the complete NCI2 Behavior Profiler system, but not just go through information. We're really going to dive into live drills. And over the course of a few days, we will develop you into someone who has true, real, professional behavior profiling skills. It is so surprising to me that this stuff surpasses anything that even organizations like the CEI and different investigative units for police departments throughout the United States use. So it's an incredibly powerful system. It is by far the best in the world. And if you want to come out and learn in person, which I think is the best way to get real skills, would love to see you there. Hope this was helpful for you guys. Take care, everyone.